Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a profound journey across the mountains, rivers, and deserts of the world to unpack Robert D. Kaplan's masterwork, The Revenge of Geography. You see, in our highly connected era, we often trick ourselves into believing we've somehow transcended the physical Earth. But what we're going to see today reveals a startling truth. The physical terrain beneath our feet absolutely continues to dictate the destiny of nations. Think of this as your serious primer on geopolitics, one that takes the humble relief map and turns it into the ultimate decoder ring for understanding our modern world.
So we have to immediately challenge a very popular modern assumption. You might actually be familiar with Thomas Friedman's famous concept of a flat world. The idea that globalization, the internet, and modern air travel have leveled the playing field and basically made physical borders completely obsolete. But we have to ask ourselves, has technology truly made the world flat? Well, Kaplan presents a really powerful counterthesis here. He argues that geography remains an inescapable and often incredibly unforgiving force. The map hasn't been conquered, it's simply been forgotten by policymakers. And ignoring it, well, that comes at our own peril.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with 1, the myth of flatness, then move to 2, borders, mountains, and fate. After that, it's 3, Eurasia and the heartland, followed by 4, the crisis of Rome. Then we'll look at 5, the fractured Middle East, and finally wrap up with 6, the Asian chessboard. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The myth of flatness. The illusion of the post-Cold War era. Think back to 1989. Following the sudden, dramatic collapse of the Berlin Wall, this wave of profound idealism swept across the globe. Because a man-made border had just been dismantled, many intellectuals falsely believed that all human divisions were suddenly surmountable. And through the 1990s, high-tech air wars in the Balkans convinced a lot of policymakers that modern military force was somehow immune to geography. But then came the tragic attacks of 2001 and the incredibly grueling ground realities of Iraq and Afghanistan, moving from those clean, limited air campaigns to mass infantry invasions in the treacherous terrain of Mesopotamia and the Hindu Kush that violently reintroduced the world to the three-dimensional relief map. It completely shattered the illusion of a borderless world.
Section 2. Borders, mountains, and fate. Ground truthing the map.
To truly recover our sense of geography, Kaplan insists that we actually need to travel as slowly as possible, observing firsthand exactly how terrain dictates human freedom. Back in the 1980s, Kaplan journeyed with a Kurdish driver, leaving the vast, totally exposed plains of Iraq and ascending up into the 10,000-foot massifs of Kurdistan. Now, down on the flat plains, Saddam Hussein's suffocating totalitarian rule was absolute. There was nowhere to hide. But the very moment they penetrated those prison-like mountain chasms, the dictator's reach just vanished. It's a brilliant example of how mountains act as a conservative, protective force against state tyranny. Ideology, as it turns out, rarely conquers altitude.
Moving to Section 3. Eurasia and the heartland, the foundational theories of geopolitics.
So, to understand the future, we actually have to consult the visionary scholars who studied the map way before the jet age blinded us to it. Coined by the Edwardian-era geographer Halford Mackinder, the heartland is essentially the massive, landlocked continental fortress of Eurasia. We're talking stretching from Eastern Europe all the way to the borders of China. Mackinder realized something absolutely crucial. This immense geography naturally encourages the rise of sprawling empires rather than liberal democratic states. It is literally the strategic pivot of the world. Whoever dominates this core possesses the interior lines of communication to project unimaginable global power.
And this dynamic runs deep into our modern history. Geographer Saul B. Cohen noted that the famous Cold War division of Germany wasn't just some entirely artificial political construct. Actually, it fell right along historic geographic fault line, separating maritime Europe, which is oriented towards the oceans and free commerce, from the continental land power realm of the heartland. The map naturally pulls the east toward the deep continental interior and the west toward the Atlantic. This creates a really severe strategic contrast. On one hand, you have maritime powers, like the United States or Great Britain, which rely heavily on oceanic mobility. Shielded by massive bodies of water, they can project power outwardly without the constant looming fear of a land invasion. Continental powers, however, are essentially trapped in the heartland. Sure, they possess vast landlocked depths, but they must constantly guard expansive, highly vulnerable land borders against multiple neighbors all at once. Their geography naturally breeds a relentless, highly centralized focus on security.
But building on Mackinder's theories, another strategist named Nicholas Spikeman introduced what he called the Rimland thesis. The rimland consists of the marginal coastal zones of Eurasia. Think Europe, the Middle East, India, and China. These regions encircle that massive heartland, but here's the kicker. They hold the vast majority of the world's population and economic power. Spikeman argued that it's actually the rimland, not the heartland alone, that is the true key. Whoever controls these coastal, highly populated zones ultimately dictates the fate of the entire Eurasian continent, and by extension, the whole world.
Section 4. The Crisis of Room, the Shrinking Eurasian Chessboard. Now you might be wondering, doesn't modern technology basically render all these spatial theories irrelevant today? Kaplan argues the exact opposite. Technology hasn't erased geography at all. It has actually intensified it, creating a dangerously claustrophobic map, what he calls a profound crisis of room. Instead of vast physical distances protecting nations, we now have overlapping missile ranges across borders. We're seeing the rapid proliferation of devastating weapons right alongside massive youth bulges in increasingly cramped, volatile megacities. When a crisis happens in one part of the rimland today, disruptive cyber technologies and mass media instantly ignite reactions across the entire continent. States literally have no room to hide anymore. The chessboard has shrunk, and that raises the stakes of absolutely every geopolitical move. Section 5. The Fractured Middle East, Terrain and Tyranny. Let's apply this geographical lens directly to the Middle East, a region currently grappling with a severe and ongoing crisis of central authority. When we look past the complex ideologies, the physical terrain itself reveals some pretty stark truths about stability and collapse. Consider Tunisia and Egypt. These are age-old, naturally cohesive clusters of civilization built along accessible coasts and life-giving rivers like the Nile. Their natural geography binds the people together, which allows for milder forms of governance. But contrast this with Libya, Yemen, and Syria. These states are largely defined by artificial borders drawn straight over expansive deserts and deeply fractured mountain ranges. Geographically fractured terrains naturally resist central authority, and tragically, they often demand extreme autocracy just to hold the state together.
This dynamic creates what is known in anthropology as a segmentary society. Yemen is basically the perfect example of this. Its sprawling, incredibly harsh mountainous topography naturally fragments its people, inherently weakening any central government and empowering isolated local tribes. A segmentary society hovers perpetually right on the edge between centralization and total anarchy. Because of the sheer reality of the relief map, any external effort to suddenly swoop in and build a centralized, liberal democratic order faces almost insurmountable geographical resistance.
Section 6. The Asian Chessboard, Rivers, Walls, and Buffers.
Shifting our focus eastward to the vast Asian landscape, we can clearly see how ancient topography continues to dictate modern military and economic strategies today. Consider China's profound internal divide. You have the wet, fertile, double-cropping rice culture of the south, contrasting sharply with the arid, nomadic wheat and millet regions of the north. This deep internal geographic tension explains why monumental human efforts, like the Grand Canal, which links the north and south, and the Great Wall, which separates the agrarian core from the nomadic steppes, were absolute necessities. They weren't just architecture, they were geographic anchors for Chinese unity. And it's only now, with its land borders finally secure, that China can afford to look outward and project power to the sea.
Just as China has to manage its massive borders, let's look at Afghanistan. Afghanistan is barely a traditional country in the geographic sense. Rather, it functions as the ultimate impassable buffer state. It is quite literally a cathedral-like mountain fortress sitting strategically between the Iranian plateau, the Central Asian steppes, and the Indian subcontinent. Because it holds this central, commanding high ground in the rimland, surrounding powers like India, Pakistan, and Iran are locked in a perpetual, often desperate struggle to influence it. It's a puzzle dictated entirely by the mountains.
So, as we conclude this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question. As we've seen today, the idea of a flat world is a comforting but ultimately dangerous illusion. While technology advances at a blistering pace, the ancient, unforgiving relief map still rules the global chessboard. The mountains, the deserts, the rivers, they aren't going anywhere. So are we prepared to navigate a future where our shrinking map makes every single border more sensitive and every geographic advantage more explosive? Thank you so much for joining me on this profound journey through the map. Keep observing, keep questioning, and whatever you do, never forget to look at the ground beneath our feet.